I was sitting on my boat. It was a beautiful Dutch 36-foot double cabin, mid-sectioned, teaked. It was a guy. I'd actually rented a cabin on this particular marina for a while I was running my business, and I had a lot of free time, and I decided after about a year and a half to take another boat. So I rented a boat on this marina. Lovely boat, a few faults anyway. I made them right, fitted a hot water urn for boiler and sort of heating and this, that and the other. Anyway, that's pretty irrelevant. Why am I taking you back to a period that's over a decade ago now? Well, at that time as I said, I had a lot of free time. I had a successful business running. I had people managing my business on site that I was in connection to down the river with a two-way radio and a mobile phone. And at that stage it was, as a lot of business owners will know, and again, please don't think this is being patronising or egocentric, it's often destructive once a business is running to interfere with the day-to-day running of that business on the ground level, just to oversee and to handle the administration, paperwork, wages, morality and any issues that crop up. Also employment. Obviously I wanted to have a hand still in people that were going to be working to contribute to my lifestyle, essentially. So I was sitting there on the boat, and I was at this point already thinking of breaking away, working out that for probably 2 or 3 decades I'd wanted to leave the UK and move to a better climate, a better food, air and water situation, and just a different life. I always thought there was something better. I don't know what, but it was something that pulled at me, so I did. So I was sitting there one day. You know, it always happens, doesn't it? I was sitting there and I ordered a couple of products to boost my interest in green energy, because at that point I'd also just invested in a submersible lifeboat. Yep, the type that drops off an oil rig, can handle going underwater to escape the fire with its own breathing apparatus, CO2 system, ballast and what have you. Well, I bought one of the first ones available off an oil rig in the North Sea and had it transported down to central London with a plan to convert it into either a home or adapt it to sell on. So solar and renewable energy and how I could power such a device was of great interest to me. We had a shop called Maplin, and I'm sure a lot of you know Maplin. Maplin, as far as I'm concerned, we used to be able to order online. I don't know if you can get Maplin products anymore because they closed. Was a fantastic electrical, I think it was like Radio Shack in the UK, in the USA. That's what I remember from movies and shows and stuff, Radio Shack. And it was just full of all the gadgets, all the components that you'd need if you wanted to build a gadget, as well as buy the gadget if you didn't want to build it. So all of it just encompassed everything electronic. They sold right, the point of this video, they sold me, back then, this was over a decade ago, a 100-watt Amorphous Solar panel kit and a Vertical Axis Wind Turbine. It was a 100-watt, I believe, Vertical Axis Wind Turbine. It was about 2 foot tall, but it popped down into its own shell, and the Amorphous Solar panels were marketed as something that would run from dawn until dusk. So I didn't need to use them, but I was really interested in the energy aspect. They weren't expensive for the time. I think the panels and the charging regulator were about £180, and the Vertical Axis Wind Turbine, which is, I'm telling you guys, it's not available. You won't find this particular model. It was so efficient that it was taken off the market. It was about 50 quid. It was like, you know, the bins that you get outside garages and car lots that spin, and they display a signal, sorry, a symbol like sail, sail, sail or something like that, but you see them spinning on the side of lots and stuff. It was one of them trapped in a box, if that gives you any idea, with a magnetic motor at the bottom. So I set it up on the deck of the boat, the panels and the wind turbine, and started to monitor what kind of electricity I could generate in the middle of London. But bearing in mind I was on the water, there was a lot more reflection. So I understood this, and I used to sit there and I'd monitor it whilst keeping in contact with people from work and doing the paperwork, and it became a bit of a hobby of mine. Eventually life changed and I sold the submersible lifeboat with the solar system and the vertical wind turbine to a really nice young guy, carpenter, and he launched it, actually built a home inside it and launched it, which is really nice. Sent me the photos about a year later. But it quickly became apparent, I thought to myself, like I always do, well, you buy something in the way I see it, and if it's an asset and you make the asset better, you sell it on again. So I thought, well, I'll sell the lifeboat and I'll chuck in the solar panels and there was also a porta toilet and the wind turbine and a battery, and I'd already had the seats taken out, luckily. So it was a platform for a houseboat, and the guy was really interested not just in the design of the boat, but it was the solar and the vertical wind turbine that got him. Seriously, it was that made him buy the boat. He wanted the boat, I think, but those extra bits, when I showed him the amps and the wattage coming out, up in the sun. So he bought it, off he went, very happy. I was happy. I thought, right, I'll go and buy myself another set of those with the profit from the boat. No, couldn't buy them. And that was, as I say, a decade ago. They stopped selling the Amorphous solar panels and those vertical axis wind turbines. I mean, Maplin continued for years after this, but those two products for Northern Hemisphere just became unavailable. So when I came down here and realised that you can run ventilation, heating, hot water, cooling from the sun with no batteries, and you can use thermodynamics, and you can use well, as I said, I've always tried to explain this to people, it's just so simple, that it could have been done in the Northern Hemisphere had they marketed fully amorphous solar panels and vertical axis wind turbines, because so many people in the Northern Hemisphere have removed their chimneys from the tops of their houses, and those chimneys, weirdly, which now, well, some of them are flues for gas, heaters and what have you, are the same size as the vertical axis wind turbine I purchased a decade ago for 50 quid, that just ran in about, only took about 3 miles an hour wind. So these are the kinds of energy devices that all of our current tech, if you like, could have run from, and the wealth it would have generated us personally from investing into these devices, each of us, if they were marketed, would have made a vast difference to now, how we can be, well, the majority can be so easily controlled through their finances. I just wanted to impart that onto you because it's a trick. That's one of the tricks. So if you ever come across a good price vertical axis wind turbine or a set of amorphous solar panels, and you're the Northern Hemisphere, from Iceland to Sweden to Alaska, Canada, those are hidden gems of technology that were removed from your perception. And, oh, solar power doesn't work, oh, wind turbine's inefficient. No, absolutely not. I sat and watched amps and watts piling to a system a decade ago as a hobby, and that's what's pushed me forward to realise that if you have to go self-sufficient, if you ever have to draw on the ability to cool, heat, it's about sanitation, it's about comfort. It really is sanitation and comfort. If you've got enough energy left over for entertainment and other, activities, fantastic, but this is all about sanitation and comfort. Dull, but true. So sorry to ramble on about that, but it was something I meant to say before, that we really have been absolutely, utterly conned, and they are forcing us into a worse situation than cutting off our ability to generate free energy. And if that doesn't make you squirm when that bill lands on your mat, it should do. Cheers everyone.